so much for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of this, particularly to see what so many people are doing when it comes to wildlife trafficking online. This is something that I've looked at recently over the past year in my work with the Alliance to Counter Crime Online. But I've also touched on the issue as I've come across it a lot in the ATHAR Project's research on antiquities trafficking on Facebook. We focus in the Middle East and North Africa and often come across wildlife sales in Facebook antiquities trafficking groups in North Africa. So this is really fascinating to see just how the trade is operating across the board globally. What I'm going to talk about today are the findings of the ACCO's recent report, which is called 2 Clicks Away, and looked at the sale of wildlife on Facebook. When we think about wildlife sales on Facebook, we have to look at more than just a particular species to understand the greater scale of the problem on the platform. One of the issues is that Facebook is completely unregulated, and as a result, there is a massive amount of illicit material online, not just related to the wildlife trade, but to antiquities, to drugs, and all of this is being sold openly on the platform. This is in part as a result of lack of regulation of tech companies, which means they aren't putting the resources toward content moderation because they legally do not have to. There are no repercussions. And so understanding some of these greater policy issues can also make a huge difference in how these trades are spreading online. Facebook serves as a perfect digital trafficking toolkit. A question I often get asked, whether it's regarding wildlife trade or antiquities trade on the platform, is if you shut down Facebook, don't the traffickers just move to another platform? And sure, the highly organized traffickers will be using encrypted messengers, they'll be using WhatsApp, in some cases they even use Twitter. However, Facebook is the most widely used social platform on the planet. We're talking about roughly a third of the entire planet is on Facebook. It's democratized trafficking by providing this toolkit that allows anybody who finds any species, any artifact in their backyard to pop on Facebook and find a buyer for that. Whereas traditionally in transnational criminal networks, you would need a person-to-person contact to actually enter into a network where material could be smuggled. The layperson wouldn't be able to just hop on the street and sell something. So as a result, Facebook serves as really the ground zero for this activity and is unmatched when it comes to other social media. Facebook tools like Facebook Shops are also used as something that we found quite commonly in the wildlife trafficking research for ACCO. Facebook Shops are a feature where users can create an in-app storefront, basically, through Facebook, where you don't have to click away from Facebook to actually purchase something. And so as a result, because Facebook's providing this service, for shops that are in the US in particular, Facebook takes a 5% fee, which means it's profiting off of sales that are in these shops. And we have found shops that very clearly, explicitly violate Facebook's community standards. Here are some examples of a Facebook shop this one's in the Middle East for ivory. Here's another that is in Vietnam, also for ivory, an endangered species part, which is banned by Facebook. And then we see live animals sold in these Facebook shops as well. This is in the US. This was in a page called Parrots for Sale, pretty explicitly selling wildlife. And Facebook's current policies ban the sale of any live animals of any kind on the platform. So this is violating multiple community standards, let alone possibly international law. This is something that the platform has really made no efforts to curb in terms of what we've seen and how frequently this material continues to pop up. We also have the issue of dealing with the algorithms of the platforms. They're actually pushing criminals together. Facebook's famous tagline is connecting the world, but it's also connecting the world for traffickers and connecting them to buyers in particular. So the study that we did focused on searching very basic phrases like monkey for sale, parrot for sale, and we searched across 4 languages in all of those same phrases, something that the average person would typically search themselves if they were to look for an item or an animal for sale online. And so with these types of searches, Facebook's algorithms are constantly pushing you content. Each time that we would find a Facebook trafficking page selling something like ivory, Facebook's algorithms would actually recommend 3 more pages that we should go to. And not only that, Facebook has these features of automatic messenger pop-ups. So if you're going to a page like this that's selling ivory, as soon as you go to the page, this pop-up comes with preset messages connecting you directly to the trafficker, so you don't actually have to communicate in a public forum. Facebook in 2018 joined the Coalition to End Wildlife Trafficking Online, along with several other social media companies. The grand goal of this coalition was to remove 80% of the online wildlife trade by 2020. Well, it's 2021 now. And so our report really focused on that promise. And when you look at the 2020 report that came out from the coalition and you compare Facebook's company highlights for the report to something like Tencent, Facebook has had minimal movement on this. Essentially, all they did was create a reporting feature and modify some searches, whereas Tencent contributed to the arrest of multiple suspects, the seizure of live animals, a significant difference in terms of the amount of effort that went into this. So when identifying content for our report, we looked at basic searches, as I mentioned, like parrot for sale, monkey for sale, ivory for sale, and then filtered by pages and groups to see what Facebook would surface for that content across the languages we identified, which were English, Arabic, Indonesian, and Vietnamese. We looked at both Facebook groups and Facebook pages. Pages are public and can be accessed by anybody. You don't even need to have a Facebook account. Whereas groups can be either public or private, and in the case of trafficking, they are often private, creating a walled garden that is accessible to that 1/3 of the global population that's on Facebook if they want to join, but they can't necessarily be viewed by everybody. Admins have to admit somebody, and you'll see more on that briefly soon. So there are several problems. When you search something like monkey for sale, as you see in this video, lots of stuff comes up, even in English, where Facebook has arguably their best moderation efforts, and even then it's still poor. Of the 473 pages that ACCO identified in our research, more than half of those pages included the terms buy, sale, or sell in the name. There's an easy solution to this. Simple if code could actually find these searches, the same searches that Facebook is surfacing when we put monkey for sale into the search bar. Facebook could also block those from appearing so that it's not pushing this content to users. Of the 473 pages identified, 137 of them we actually identified because of Facebook's related pages feature. We didn't go more than 2 layers deep in terms of clicks, just simply because it's really an infinite black hole of related pages for antiquities trafficking, or excuse me, for wildlife trafficking. Again, this is a problem with an easy solution. Facebook disabling the feature on any pages that have to do with wildlife would stop the acceleration of trafficking. So when Facebook's joining this coalition promising to end trafficking, it has algorithms and features that are really accelerating that process. Not just that, but of the 137 pages that we identified just by Facebook's algorithms, the majority of those did not include the words buy, sale, or sell in the name. That means that Facebook's algorithms know to connect users to wildlife content that isn't explicitly selling wildlife based on the name. So while my monkey for sale search may not have turned up 3 of the pages and related pages, Facebook is pushing that content to me anyways, content I may not have otherwise found. And in this case, that means content for trafficking. Excuse me. Okay, and we also have looked at the removal. So our report ran from March to September of, or a research study ran through March to September of 2020. Now, we don't know how many pages were up on Facebook prior to that. Because Facebook does not include this in information in their typical reports. But what we do know is that some of the content we found has been active on the platform for over a decade. Here you see that Facebook's moderation in English during the period of our study versus other languages is a major difference. 59% of the pages we identified in English were no longer active when we went back and checked in October after our study had been complete. But in other languages, languages that also had pages with buy, sale, or sell in the name in their respective language, had much lower levels of moderation. Only 2.2% of the pages in Arabic had been removed by October 3rd. Only 2%, which was one page in Indonesian, and only 10% in Vietnamese, which shows that Facebook's efforts in foreign languages, when it's connecting the world, including for traffickers, are quite low. And this could be contributing to some of this continued acceleration of the trafficking. In addition, many of the pages that we found that had the automatic pop-up messenger also remained active. Nearly 100 pages with the pop-up messenger were still active as of October 3rd, again, pushing users to direct communication with traffickers. Now, some of these Facebook pages, as I mentioned, have been active for over a decade. The earliest page we identified was created in January 2009. So for over 10 years, this page has been active on the platform, pushing wildlife content. And even if the page may not have pushed wildlife content in the past 2 years, users still post their own sales for wildlife to these still active Facebook pages because they've never been removed. And you can see here that Facebook had, in some languages, including English, there was a significantly higher rate of pages created after Facebook joined the coalition than before. So Facebook's effort to stop the creation of these pages after they joined the coalition to end wildlife trafficking online had not been significantly effective. Here we have an example of a page that's been active for nearly 10 years now. You see it carries some of those features we mentioned, like the automatic pop-up messenger. And this is a user in the United States. You see he tagged right there in his post that he's in Naples, Florida, and states in the post that he's just received a new shipment from South America and to direct message him for more info. Conveniently, Facebook's automatic pop-up messenger makes it very easy to PM him or direct message him for information on this. We also looked at Facebook groups. And as I mentioned, Facebook groups can be private, which makes them easier for traffickers to communicate in a semi-private forum. Here you see how users in Facebook groups, when you go to join, they ask you to answer questions. And in this one, it's actually acknowledging that Facebook has rules against the sale of wildlife. So this questionnaire to enter the group is actually telling you exactly what to do to post a wildlife sale without getting caught by the platform's algorithms. And it's really not rocket science. Of the 281 groups we identified across the 4 languages, only 68 of those pages, 24%, had sale, buy, or sell in the name. This is likely because these page admins, which are more likely to be traffickers than the average layperson, are aware of Facebook's policies, and as you see here, we're trying to get around them. Similar to the Facebook pages issue, this is something that could be solved with if code in terms of removing sale, buy, or sell groups that are very explicit about their purpose.
12 minutes.
Okay, thank you. We also see that moderation in groups was far lower, which is maybe one of the reasons that wildlife sellers are actually gravitating toward Facebook groups. If you look at the column for groups that were deactivated as of October 3rd, only 23 total across all of the languages have been deactivated, and that includes the groups in English. So that just shows that these groups' efforts to get around Facebook's algorithms may also be working. We also see the groups that were created prior to the coalition to end wildlife trafficking online and again, we had some very early groups that have been active and remain active on the platform for over a decade. Now, there are efforts to address some of these issues on the tech side where they are trying to make it harder for authorities and researchers to actually address these problems. They've been baking language for Section 230, which is a regulation in the United States that provides complete immunity from any legal liability for tech companies that are hosting criminal content. This may be something you've heard the president talk about, but really this is an issue that Congress has been trying to reform for a while. In light of that, Facebook is trying to bake this language into trade agreements, including the new US-UK trade agreement, which will actually export that immunity to other countries. And so this is a major issue that as researchers, we need to look at some of these policy issues and understand what to target to ensure these companies can be regulated in the future. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I look forward to answering them.